You want to talk plants?
Bitter melon. Scientific name Momordica charantia. Momordica, Latin for to bite, referring to its seeds that appear to have been bitten on, and charantia meaning graceful. Plant family CURCUBITACEE or CURCUBITACEE. Cousins: cucumber, squash, melons. Known as bitter melon, bitter apple, bitter gourd, bitter squash, balsam pear, and these are only a few of its common names in English. Once you put an adjective before or after a common name of a plant, depending on which language you are using, you're not talking about the same plant species. And Momordica charantia, it's not an apple or a pear. You could call it a gourd or a squash, as they are in the same plant family, and it looks a little bit more like a gourd or a squash. One thing is certain, it is bitter. So bitter that it is one of the few plants that you wonder who was the first crazy person to eat it, and now we grow it as a crop. A question I sometimes wonder about many other now common plants. Coffee is bitter. Who figured out that it is delicious? But you have to roast the seed, grind the seeds, boil the ground seeds, and even then some people still add cream on sugar. Widely cultivated throughout Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean, bitter melon originated in Africa, where it might have been a dry season staple food for the Kung hunter-gatherers. Like most members of the Cucurbitaceae plant family, Momordica is a herbaceous vine with alternate tender leaves, beautifully divided and further lobed. Also, like most cucurbits, Momordica is monoecious, having two different types of flowers: male flowers that produce stamens and pollen, and female flowers with an inferior ovary, which will become the fruit, and it's full of ovules, which will become the seeds. If you ever wonder why your cucumbers or other cucurbits did not produce a fruit on every one of their flowers, it is because not all flowers have an ovary, the plant part that matures into a fruit. From Greek, monoecious means one house, as both types of flowers, male and female, are on the same individual plant, but they are not on the same location. Another plant that you know well that is monoecious is corn, with tassels being clusters of male flowers producing pollen, and the ears being clusters of female flowers producing fruits and seeds. One year, not even sure why, I bought bitter melon seeds. Yep, you guessed it, from Baker's Creek. Growing bitter melon is relatively easy. Like most cucurbits, it needs warmth, a trellis to grow on, and water. As it is mostly a tropical and subtropical vine, it should be planted like most cucurbits after the last chance of frost, preferably in warm soil in the late spring or early summer. Or you warm up the soil by placing some black material to speed up soil warming. In the northern hemisphere, the bitter melon starts flowering about June, July, and will produce delicate yellow flowers. It will follow with producing fruits in August all the way through November or until the first frost. And bitter melon plants are very sensitive to frost. Bitter melons come in a variety of sizes and shapes. The cultivar most common in China has a more or less smooth surface, while the cultivar most common in India has a surface that is covered with teeth and ridges. Some varieties mature white, like this Japanese Okinawan variety that is supposed to also be much less bitter when ripe. Some varieties produce miniature fruit. Why should you consider adding bitter melon to your life? If you figure out how to reduce the amount of bitterness that this fruit, and it must be the plant as well, as bitter melon plants and the arugula are some of the very few plants in our garden which is visited by deer daily. We call it the deer buffet, that the deer and the wildlife did not munch on. In recent years, deer even ate tomato and potato leaves, not just their previous favorites, strawberry plants, raspberry, blackberry. To go around its very strong bitterness, you either grow the Okinawan variety that matures white, or other varieties you also pick when they are ripe, when they turn yellow or orange. An unripe bitter melon, you simply cut in half, you remove the seeds and the white pulp, which is also very bitter. The plant is storing unpalatable chemicals to keep herbivores away from eating their offspring. Put the sliced or diced bitter melon fruit in a bath of salted lukewarm water for a few minutes to a few hours. The thinner the slice is, the more of the bitter melon is exposed to salted water, removing more of the bitterness. But some people consider that this way you might also remove more of the important nutrients that this plant has to offer. Bitter melon, if you call it a vegetable or fruit, which is both actually, it's rich in numerous healthy nutrients. What is the difference between a vegetable and a fruit? Vegetables can be a variety of plant parts: roots, radishes, carrots, and parsnips, or stems, asparagus, or leaves, spinach, lettuce, cabbage, bok choy, or fruits, tomatoes, cucumbers, and bitter melon. And when it comes to how to use these plants, we use the fruits more of a dessert, while vegetable, we use them more in savory dishes. Bitter melon can be used both green, not ripe yet, the same way we enjoy its cousin, cucumber, also not ripe yet. And bitter melon is also enjoyed ripe, turning yellow, white, or orange, depending on the variety. Apparently, the red pulp around the seed is also edible and less bitter. And the seeds also are edible, just the same as pumpkin seeds. Even young shoots and leaves are consumed as greens. So why should you consider adding some of this fruit vegetable to your life? Like most fruits and vegetables, bitter melon packs a high amount of vitamin C, important in disease prevention. Vitamin A, that promotes vision and skin health. Like tea, that is also bitter, bitter melon contains catechin, epicatechin, gallic acid, and chlorogenic acid, powerful antioxidants that can help protect cells against oxidative stress and damage. One big claim is that bitter melon can reduce blood sugar level, maybe reducing damaging effects of diabetes. Research studies bring some support that bitter melon can improve the way sugar is used in our cells, and that promotes the secretion of insulin. Adding more bitter melon to your life might reduce the amount of cholesterol in your blood. Cholesterol is a very important chemical with multiple beneficial functions in our body, from cell structure to bile production in the liver and even vitamin D production. What we do not want is high levels of cholesterol in our arteries, which can cause fatty plaque, leading to atherosclerosis, high blood pressure, and increased risk of heart disease. Bitter melon, as part of a balanced diet, might help reducing the levels of total cholesterol, bad cholesterol, LDL, and triglycerides. It might help in weight control. Bitter melon is high in fiber and low in calories, and most dietary fiber just passes through our digestive system slowly, reducing hunger and appetite, and hopefully maintaining a diverse, healthy gut and microbiome. I can definitely hear someone saying, of course you'll lose weight or not gain weight when you're eating food that don't taste good. Bitter. Humans have adapted to use many foods that other animals avoid. Onions and other alliums such as garlic, mints including basil and rosemary, and even some poisonous plants such as cassava and almonds. Okay, almonds are not poisonous anymore. We selected the ones that have the least amount of cyanide. If you decide to include bitter melon in your nutrition, you can choose from the ripe version, which can be used raw in a mixed salad, particularly well paired with fruits, which bring some sweetness to counteract the bitterness, or the unripe version, which becomes more palatable when cooked. Various cultures are using bitter melon in a variety of dishes. Pan-fried with onions, garlic, tomatoes, eggs, steamed, baked, or stuffed with a variety of fillings. I find it particularly enticing as baked chips. Thinly sliced, mixed with oil, maybe grapeseed and sesame oil, and the seasoning of your choice: salt, black pepper, paprika, a good turmeric mix, garlic powder. Great with a masala or sambar mix, to which I also added some chickpea flour. Then baked on a thin layer, which makes some delicious bitter melon chips. Cautions. Adding anything new to your digestive system might cause discomfort. Plants adapted to become less palatable and be avoided by herbivores. If you're taking blood sugar lowering medications, eating bitter melon while on diabetes medication can cause a blood sugar drop. please consult your healthcare provider before using bitter melon in food. If you are considering taking bitter melon as a supplement, then there is an even bigger concern, and you should consult with your healthcare provider to consider other medication that it might interfere with. Some medications are moved in and out of our cells by specialized cell membrane pumps. Bitter melon might change the function of these pumps and can interfere with how much medication is absorbed by your cells and potentially having adverse effects. Otherwise, I hope you might consider adding some Momordica charantia to your life. I just didn't want to call it bitter, but let's be clear, it is bitter. It just depends how you are working around that part.